session. I'd like to introduce our next candidate to be interviewed, Victor Cardenas.
Cardenas, we have.
Okay, they told me Cardenas, but...
It's all right.
It's okay.
I think they call me that in Novi as well.
But good morning, Victor. Welcome to the City Council in Troy. On behalf of the Troy City Council, we want to welcome you this morning. Thank you for participating in this process with us. Just a couple of housekeeping items. Each council member is going to ask a question. We're going to go around the table. Then we'll go around a second time for a second question. I'll ask the last question at the end, and then we'll give you an opportunity to ask questions if you wish, or to make a closing statement at that time. We allot 1 hour per interview, and we ask the same questions to each candidate to make it fair. And I should have pointed that out earlier, but you know, for the record, we do ask the same questions to every candidate. So, having said that, once again, welcome, and I'll ask the first question.
Okay.
If you're ready.
I'm ready, thanks.
Please tell us about yourself, and then explain your reasons for wanting to be the next Troy City Manager.
Perfect. Well, I have been in city government for over 10 years now. I think it's been almost 12 to 13. Predominantly here in Oakland County. So I was serving in as Assistant 2 in Oak Park. Took a time away and worked in Jackson County as a village manager in a small community called Brooklyn, and then been in Novi for the last 8 years. I'm a credential manager, and I've been heavily involved in our ICMA, our International City Manager Association, and the State Association as well. Serving in many different committees, and also chairing some committees. I was the chair of our professional development for our conference committee in Novi, and then also I was appointed to oversee our conference committee for our international association, which will be in Nashville next year. So they've entrusted me to oversee the programs and enrichment of the managers, not only state but the international level, which might be a scary thing. But Nashville should be a good time. Looking forward to that. And why Troy? It's just a fantastic community. It's obviously the largest in Oakland County. It has a great reputation. The fiscal health is outstanding. It's a perfect place to raise a family. The school district is phenomenal, and that's what me and my family are looking for. We're looking to settle here in Troy, if I'm so fortunate to become city manager, and raise our kids here. We have 3 lovely young children. I remind myself that every day, depending how they act. Our elementary school, I believe, is 4th or 5th in the rankings, and they're all beat out by Troy elementary schools in the school rankings. So what a perfect opportunity for our family, and a great organization to be part of. I've been able to interview and do some backgrounds on some former city employees, city managers, throughout from the years past, and they all rave about the staff, quality staff here, the elected officials, appointed officials over the years and currently. So everything just points this is a great opportunity for me and my family.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Abraham will have the first question.
Good morning. Thank you for spending your Saturday.
Thank you for having me.
So my question is, what do you consider as essential in the relationship between a city manager and city council? How would you facilitate a productive relationship?
I think it all rests on trust, and be able to have that trust both ways. More important for the council to trust the city manager, and the city manager has to have the trust with staff as well, to have that fluid and working relationship with all involved. And I'm a big proponent of communication, making sure the city council is engaged and up to speed on everything going on. Biggest thing that I've learned throughout my career is you don't need to have any surprises. City council is the worst thing they want to do is be surprised in any kind of instance, and being the first to hear about something either from a coworker or a resident or a neighbor about what's going on. Likewise, the staff shouldn't be surprised, and likewise, manager hopefully wouldn't be surprised by what's going on with the staff. So it's that constant line of communication from me to the city council. I've been able to facilitate that in all my positions in Brooklyn, and especially in Novi, both to my city manager or when I was acting as interim city manager in Novi. I've been constantly informing them what's going on, keeping them on the what's the heartbeat of what's going on, so there's no surprises down the road, and that they are properly prepared, have enough time. Because the worst thing is to you have the council Monday night, you get something on Friday, and it's the first they've heard of it. That should be, that should be all the detail they get on Friday or on Thursday whenever the packets go out. And that should be primed well ahead of time.
Thanks, you.
Councilman Baker will have the next question.
Thank you. Welcome. Glad you can be here. Obviously, we've seen your resume and your cover letter, so we know what you've provided us. But what would an internet search reveal about your past public positions? And is there any information or background that you would like to provide?
I'm a big fan of soccer, so they'll find out on my Twitter feed and my support for not only Liverpool, but my Grand Valley support as well. So I'm an appointee of the governor to the Board of Trustees for Grand Valley State University. So there was been extensive background check in that regard. So it's pretty much, there might be some embarrassing videos. Our mayor in Novi likes to have a very happy-go-lucky video of the company state of the city, so I've been a part of that, unfortunately. So please don't go out there and look at those, because you might do some digging on that. But really, there's nothing that's embarrassing to us, but it's some articles I might have written or some presentations I might have been a part of through different organizations. Alliance for Innovation is one that we're big fans of in Novi that I've been able to present to them, so there might be some press on that or some work they've done with the ICMA or for MME, for Municipal Managers. Michigan Municipal Executives are our new name. We used to be called Maligma, but we thought that sounded more like a disease, so we since changed that.
Thank you.
Councilman Hamilton will have the next question.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Good to see you. What actions would you take to assure the city is intentionally engaged in evaluating and improving its diversity and inclusion efforts to assure all residents have an opportunity to participate in their government?
At first, I would start looking at those underrepresented areas of the city and other that might be more represented. But we have had a long history in Novi where we have a very diverse community from the Indian population, but also the Asian, predominantly the Japanese population. So we've had a long history of myself going and being able to engage with them and to determine what their needs are and to attend their events. But really, it's going to them. It's not really, requesting them to come to us here at City Hall or another city building, but it's really to kind of ingratiate ourselves with them and figure out what they need and what we can do for them as a community. And we can't always do everything for them, but really it's just to try to hear them out and get their point of view and see what we as a community could do for them. No, it might not be just from us from the city, but it might be from school district or from other entities, organizations that the city might be able to provide to them. So it's really just that open line of communication, hearing what they need, and being able to facilitate and be available whenever they need it.
Thank you. Councilman Henderson will have the next question.
Sure. So Troy's a pretty mature community, as I'm sure as it mirrors Novi in a lot of ways. And we have difficult open space primarily available to develop. So what experience do you have in assessing development opportunities and challenges in the city, and what is your plan if selected as the next Troy City Manager?
I think for a lot of us in Metro Detroit, I mean, the easy properties have already been undertaken. So those easy pockets of development opportunities have already been done by our predecessors, so now it's the hard stuff. So it's really getting to know those property owners, those developers in the area, and being able to meet their needs, and for a lot of Troy's be redevelopment, and to establish those relationships, again, with those property owners, developers, sales agents, to know what you have available and be able to fit those needs. I have a good rapport with the regional chamber and with Oakland County in terms of economic development efforts, so I know those players that are involved there and have a good rapport to be able to, they can reach out to me when there's opportunity in Novi, and likewise to them when something comes to us, we can engage them. Just yesterday I was speaking to a company in New York that's looking to settle in Novi. I won't disclose the name so you guys don't steal them, but I was just on the phone with the regional chamber to figure out what incentives we can take advantage of and what help they can lend to us in terms of making their transition into Novi easy, if they choose us. They said there's other players in the game, so they might be here in Troy, they might be elsewhere. But it's just having those relationships, those individuals in the area that be able to help tell the story. Because in the end, we're all not competing against each other. We're able to, I mean, some opportunities are better in Troy than Madison Heights or Clawson or Novi, and likewise vice versa. So we can act as a team to be able to help this region grow and thrive together, because if we don't, then we're all just going to be fending for ourselves, and that's not going to be helpful for anyone.
Councilwoman Hoderick has the next question.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for being here today. What do you see as the city manager's role in communicating with the press / media and the public? How do you plan to be successful?
It's really evaluating what the relationship is with the staff in terms of there's a community relations team and who takes that point sometimes. But we've been able to get myself out there sometimes when needed, YouTube videos or Facebook Live, whatever's going on. Unfortunately, we had a water crisis in Oakland County. I don't think you guys were really affected. It was about a year ago this time when we lost power, or we lost water for many cities. So nobody was out of water for a day. And I was, in fact, the acting DPW director and the interim, or the acting city manager at the same time. So I was wearing two different hats. So I was communicating to residents in terms of whatever means possible via Twitter, via video, updating them what's going on. And same thing, interacting with the press in that manner as well. So I have a history of that and be able to work with our internal staff to assist that if necessary. But I believe also social media, as we've seen in the national realm and also the local realm as well, is a powerful tool as well. So I think there's some great avenues and great examples out there of engaging the public with what's going on. One example I like, and when I've been in the city manager role, is to just have a couple points of each city council meeting that's very important, just to kind of highlight that on Twitter. I've stolen that, borrowed that from Evanston, Illinois, of just, hey, what's going on the council meeting next Monday? Here's what some things you as a resident would be interested in, and here's the links to the agenda items on the website, and take a look and just be consistent in that messaging every other week when the council comes up.
Thank you.
Councilman Pennington has the next question.
Victor, good to see you again.
Likewise.
Please describe in detail your approach to municipal budgeting, including the process you would use to develop budget objectives with City Council and facilitate budget development with department heads.
I learned early in my career as an internship with the city of Indianapolis and the Controller's Office that the budget is the most important document that the City Council has. That's your policy document. That's what you tell what you're planning on doing for the next year. In Troy's case, it's a 3-year budget. Same thing we have in Novi. So it's really, it's how the city goes around and how it pays for what your initiatives are and what your goals are. So I've been taking a look at the Troy budget and the audit as well. We're going through our audit right now. It's one of my homework assignments for this weekend, to look over the audit. But it's really just make sure that all the staff is on the same page, what the objectives are. I believe you guys have a goal setting session earlier in the year to kind of set priorities. And then it's administration's opportunity to go back and craft how to meet those goals and objectives and what that takes. And so we have a capital improvement program in Novi that I've been able to digitize and get that online to help that process. So it's just those tools to help council and planning commission make those decisions easier. But again, it's unfortunately we in Novi, our budget gets adopted in July and we start the budget process for the next year in August. So it's kind of a fluid process. And staff loves it. They love getting into the weeds, and not really, but and unfortunately for our staff, but fortunately for our city council, I'm a big proponent of getting much information as possible. So that is providing much detail to whatever we're proposing to fund, be that a new piece of equipment to plow streets, to support the infrastructure, water and sewer, the roads, what's going on, what kind of method we are going to repave roads, across what new programs we're going to offer per council goals, or what city staff has in ideas. But it's really just that getting as much information as possible, so you, the decision makers, have an easy job to make those decisions and be able to direct staff accordingly.
Victor, I'll ask the next question. I assume you've taken a look at the city's organizational structure. How do you feel about the current structure? Do you feel there is a need to implement change? If so, express your ideas and tell us your philosophy on the city's organizational structure.
You know, until you're into the organization itself and see how it runs and see what everyone's expectations are, both council and from staff, I really have no ideas in terms of how that will run. I'm very much a big believer of empowering staff and encourage leadership at all levels. And it's not that the department director should have all the answers. Line staff who are doing the job day in and day out should have those answers and should be able to make those recommendations when necessary for service improvements in the organization throughout the community. So I would make sure that I would, take the first almost a year and really just listen to staff and council and determine what they see as are crucial matters that need to be addressed in the city, and see the city through their eyes, and determine what they do and how they do their jobs, and what they need to do, and what they need to do their jobs better. And so, at that point, then be working in concert with City Council to determine if there's any changes that need to be made. But I mean, I'm a big believer that to surround myself with people that are a heck of a lot smarter than I am. So, because I'm not gonna be able to know everything, but it's just to challenge those individuals with questions in terms of what is going on and how can we improve upon that. Because we're never always going to be just operating 100%. So there's always room for improvement. So it's constant improvement as the city changes. As we mentioned earlier, it's established, it's aging, and we need to redevelop and restructure things as things goes on. Technology is constantly changing, so we got to be able to adapt to that as well. So it's always a constant change in flux. So it's be able to evaluate that once we're boots on the ground.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Abraham?
So if you're selected as the next city manager, how would you build trust and respect of the employees and also within the community?
Building those relationships, and that's the only way to establish trust. Be able to have that personal relationship and rapport with residents and with employees, to meet with them, to be in their space. Again, not making sure that I'm always encouraging people to come to the city manager's office, come meet us here, but go to their workstations, go to their areas of the city, be that fire stations, the public works yard. But it's really just to meet them where they are, get to know them as people, and again, try to build that relationship to be able to know that my door's always open. I'm not one that really always stay in the office, like to get out and walk around, talk to everyone, see what they need, how things are going. So that's the biggest thing. Like I said, I'm a strong proponent and advocate for the ICMA, and I'm a credentialed member that abide by our code of ethics. So I encourage that we have those code of ethics in my office and around different conference areas and general areas of our city hall. So I would encourage to do the same if it's possible here in this building or other buildings, so that people know what my ideals are and what I believe in and what I strive toward.
Thank you.
Councilman Baker?
Thank you. You touched on some of this stuff already, so this might be a rehashing, but feel free to extrapolate. Professionally and personally, how do you plan to be involved in the community?
Part of what Mayor Pro Tem said in terms of getting out in the public is attending as much events as possible, getting out in the community. I'm not sure if I'll be running the 5K tomorrow, because I do want to see what costumes you guys are going to wear. I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, in the future, get out there as much as possible, and that's why I think it's paramount to move to the community. Because once you're, my kids are in the school system, you're shopping out in the community, you're going to run into those residents, positively and negatively, that might stop you and pull on your ear a little bit and tell you what's going on. When you're in soccer programs or other sports programs that you have in the community, you're going to meet those parents that are in the community and have questions about what's going on. So, like it or not, whatever we do in terms of getting information out via social media or through council minutes or videos, you're not going to reach everyone. So you'll be able to engage those in those non-formal engagements that help them understand what's going on with the city and possibly clarify what's going on, because we all know the rumor mill is always very strong no matter where you are, and be able to clarify what's really the real story and help them understand and help them be engaged in the future.
Councilman Hamilton?
We're
proud of our long-standing fiscal strength. And while recognizing fiscal policy is set by council, what assistance would you provide to maintain or improve our city's financial position? And what past experiences demonstrate your financial acumen?
Similar to what we was mentioned earlier in terms of the two communities mirroring each other, we have a strong charge from our city council to maintain a robust fund balance, and I believe you have the same here in Troy, and celebrate that as you should. So again, it's that budget process that Councilmember Pennington was asking about in terms of making sure that we hit those marks. And one thing that it's staff sometimes is easy for them to always make a request for any kind of new program or emergency expenses. Hey, let's take this under fund balance. And like, I'm not sure how many times we have to tell you guys, it's not the easy question. Or that's not the easy response. Look at other ways we can maybe cut something that we don't need anymore, or some stuff that is not being used at this time to be able to fund whatever that emergency purchase had to be. One thing that we were able to do, we kind of borrowed from Ford Motor Company, was a stop list. What things should we stop doing? We always take on new objectives and opportunities and initiatives, but what should we stop doing that's not adding value to the organization or the community? So again, it's just getting that information out there, being able to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and again, to meet those council goals. So I haven't dug into that much to see if you guys have specific goals for your fund balance for all your funds, but something our city council has that we must meet on an annual basis to make sure that we stay within those. I know you have that for your general fund, but I'm not sure for your other funds. So it's just make sure that we stay within those to make sure that we're meeting the council objectives, but make sure staff knows that, and reminded of that, and keep that in the back of their heads as they make their decisions. Thank you.
Councilman Henderson?
Based on your research and understanding of the city of Troy, what do you believe are the most important opportunities and challenges for the city in the near term, and how would you approach those?
That's a good question. We only have an hour, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that it comes back to the core, which I think what I've seen from council meetings in the past and from your guys, from what I've read, from what you've all said, is safety is paramount. Fiscal stability is also important for the city. And then developing a sound and proper way, I guess should say. So as I drive around the city, there's a lot of development going on. It's redevelopment. It's using opportunities that might not exist in the past, or bringing that development closer to the roads, not only on Big Beaver, but also on Maple as well. So it's just taking that momentum and carrying it on and making sure that we're developing in a very prudent way. Again, engaging in individuals that can help us in that manner, but making sure that that's what council and the community wants going forward. But it's safety, but it's not only just for public safety, for police and fire, but it's also infrastructure, as we found with that water emergency. Our pipes in the ground and our roads are not getting any newer, so it's making sure that because it's making sure the roads are plowed as well during the winter. So it's one thing that it could turn the public on you in a second, is unplowed roads during the winter. So making sure that those are all humming along, and then residents know how it's being done and why that's being done in that manner. So public safety, fiscal stability, and engagement, I think, are the three big tools that we need to work off of.
Councilwoman Hoderick?
What steps would you implement to assure an ethical culture in the city?
It kind of alluded to as well, is just making sure that that code of ethics is alive and well in this organization. Training is big, and it's one thing that I always strive to make sure that our staff is well trained and be able to take those opportunities to better themselves and commit to lifelong learning. So it's just being that reminder from our end as well, from the manager's office, to make sure that things are going along as they should, asking those questions. Having internal audits when necessary, and checks of our practices, and our controls are in place to make sure that nothing is done not ethically or illegal. Unfortunately, nowadays, there's a lot of trust, and sometimes in my board position at Grand Valley, we've had people call up saying that, hey, I'm with this contractor, ABC contractor, and we have some changes we need to make. Then this new bank is our new fiduciary. Oh, okay. Well, no, there should be controls in place. Unfortunately, we lost some money in that regard. Thankfully, our insurance was able to help us out with that. But, I mean, you got to follow your controls, fiscal controls, to make sure that those kind of situations don't occur. So, likewise, on the staff side as well, making sure that they abide by the policies and procedures that we have in place, because there's a lot of different touch points that people have with different individuals. So making sure that those are always abided by and checked on a regular basis.
Councilman Pennington?
Well, Victor, you know what we've been through the last year and a half around here, but please describe the situation you've handled in your community where you faced a contentious issue with strong, divergent opinions, and what did you learn from that experience?
I think nowadays every interaction or issue is a strong contentious issue that comes up, and there's strong opinions on either side. So we've had a lot of different opportunities this year where we've been developing new municipal complexes. There's a new recreational building on our north side of our city that we're proposing and actually finally got passed, and the residents around that area were not a big fan of that. So we had to go back to the residents on several different opportunities and talk to them about that, work with council to be able to meet their needs and change that around. Where that building faced, where it was located in the park, what amenities it offered, and it was just, a constant getting information back to council, addressing those residents' concerns. That was one. We've had a new development on the similar side of the city that residents weren't a fan of as well, and it's gone through, I think, 5 different iterations from the developer to make that a almost acceptable development. Now, City Council said, hey, we need to go back again and make some more tweaks to that. So it's just that have an open line of communication with council and be able to engage the residents when necessary. Because, like it or not, more and more residents are going to come. They want to be engaged, as they should. For a long time, we enjoyed a lot of meetings where there wasn't residents. We wanted more residents to come. Now the residents are coming, and hey, we gotta, we have to abide by what we wanted and what we were thriving for. So, and be able to answer those questions and address them accordingly. So there's been a lot of those that have come up just recently. Those were a couple examples for the last couple months. But the residents are going to be engaged because we want them engaged through social media, through other platforms to keep them engaged and knowledgeable of what's going on. So that door is open for a reason, because they want to know we have to know, let them know, and be able to invite them in here what's going on. We can't do anything more in the back room or over cigars to get deals done in the city. That's not how we act, and that's not how we should have behaved over the years, and we've learned that, I think. So so it's just dealing with that and being able to encounter that and answer those questions when necessary.
Victor has the last question. And you've already answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Our past city manager contracts have included a provision requiring the city manager to live within 20 miles of the city. If offered the position, would this type of provision be acceptable to you?
Definitely. We're ready, and we're looking forward to moving into the community and becoming established in the community and being one with the community. My wife works at the University of Michigan. She's not so thrilled about that, but 75 is a very good thoroughfare that will get her to Ann Arbor pretty quickly. So I think it's the same amount of time, but less time in traffic and the back roads getting to Ann Arbor. But we're all excited, and I'm a big proponent of that as well. I think we need to be a part of the community to be able to work for the community. Other individuals have different philosophies on that, but from my history in municipal government, it's something we have to, there's no question about it, you have to do it.
I'll give you an opportunity to ask questions if you'd like to ask questions or make a closing statement.
Sure. A few questions since we have some time. What is the council's expectation, or I guess what do they look for this next city manager, I guess, performance-wise, I guess, from those key marks, 100 days out, first year, what would you be looking for in terms of the performance in those key marks?
Very good. We did this last time and we went this way, so I'm going to let Councilman Henderson start and we'll work our way around to me.
First 100 days, just obviously you mentioned it would take you a year to kind of get acclimated and before you make any big changes. So, naturally, we want you to get in, get your feet wet with the employees and the citizens, and try to sort out some of the details that are necessary to build a team and relationships and, get that piece of it rolling. And then development. Development is a big question these days for us. We have a lot of spaces that are being redeveloped, as you mentioned, and also spaces that have been for sale or not for sale. They've been owned by families for decades, and now all of a sudden it's almost impossible for them not to want to sell them again. But they abut other neighborhoods that are used to open space behind them and so forth. So those are the things that we need to grapple with and try to understand and be able to incorporate it better into our city.
I like the fact that one of your responses was you would listen and learn for a certain amount of time, maybe not a year, but to figure out what are the most important issues, and you're going to find out that it's rebuilding trust. We talked about that last time around with the employees and with the city in general. That's been lost, obviously, with the past city manager. It's going to be, moving forward, it's going to be your most important issue once you deal with all the department heads and figure out what, where they are and what you need to do moving forward.
Thanks.
Right, for me, after 100 days isn't a long time, so I would just want to see a grasp of everything that's going on with the city. I'd want to see the start of a form of a plan of what the most important issues are in the city and where we're going to go from there. Definitely centered around what the people that are already here are focused on, but I'd like, after 100 days, to get just a general summary and a point of view of what's important to our city.
My mind is swirling as we talk about this. And it sounds repetitive, but there is a healing that has to go on. Staff in particular has been through a lot, and I think our community is staring at us a bit wide-eyed and trying to understand and catch up with the process. So that it sounds so, we need to rebuild trust. We really need to rebuild trust. And it's not the first time the community, while we have so many strengths, we've had these moments in time. So here we are again. So that first 100 days is really understanding what that means, peeling back that onion and really understanding and working toward that. That would parallel, the budget process. So, we would be looking at you and hearing you ascertain our challenges in a millage capped environment, what that 3-year budget, 5-year outlook looks like, and really being honest and candid. Stepping in, you would have that opportunity to really give that a fresh look, help us understand that challenge and maybe some options for how we overcome it. The first year, just at the end of it, success looks like being part of the team is built. You have really quality staff, knowing that you understand what those qualities are and the strengths are, and knowing that you're on board. That's what year 1 looks like. Because there's so many outstanding things already in place here. Staff that's really been holding things up, how you take that and seize it would just be really beneficial.
Thanks.
It's not as fun to go later in the process.
It's
just saying. But I'm going to take a shot. So.
It's not fun going first.
Just try to be.
Listening to everybody, it's interesting to hear the different perspectives, and I agree and disagree. We go through that. I think for me, hearing 100 days or a year out, I think I have a little bit different thought on that. I'm kind of looking for somebody who is ready to come in on day 1 and go full throttle, not make changes. Obviously, we have a staff and department heads here that are top-notch, in my opinion, and know how the city functions best and have been doing a great job at it. But I feel that the city's been, although, like I said, running on full throttle in many ways, not fully up to what it is capable of doing this past year especially. And there's projects we've talked about over the past couple of years that we haven't been talking about for the past 6-7 months. for obvious reasons, but I think we need to get back to those because it's a disservice to our community and our residents to talk about them, have public engagement sessions, do all of this work, and then they don't come up. We haven't talked about it since February or so. And so I'm looking for somebody who will have the wherewithal and the ability to go on that first morning. And obviously, a new person can't come in and just take control without the help of the department heads that are here. And as I said, they do a great job. And obviously, there needs to be a lot of leaning on them to make sure things stay on the right course. But I also look at a year out. It's a little different because there'll be council elections next year. There'll be a new mayor, potentially new council members. So for me, I would recommend to the next city manager that have things firmly in place by then. And that may sound a little scarier than I intended it to, but I think it's an important factor that needs to be considered. You don't have the luxury of the next 2 years to work with an existing council. In 6 months, there'll be campaigns for the next council.
Yeah,
So
very
things
fair.
gotta work around. But we have a great team, trust in the community and with the staff, and the staff who feels like they've been whiplashed around like the community. Also, everyone needs to realize that we have great strengths, and we have a leader who understands what we already have that is willing to take us to another level as the community is ready to go.
Thanks.
It's harder to go last. I kind of want to piggyback off of what Councilman Baker had mentioned. In some ways, 2018 has been a bit of a lost year. There's been some great things that have happened, but we've had some stalled progress. Pragmatically speaking, when you talk about 100 days, that's not a lot of time. And, pragmatically, that puts you in first quarter of next year, which is, peak budget season. So in terms of priorities, it's readiness to go through that budget process. It is engaging in the community, starting to engage with some of our key partners, like the Chamber, the Troy Community Coalition, the school district. I would want to see that starting to occur. And, potentially at that 100-day mark, maybe usually council does evaluations of direct staff once a year, but maybe we do it at roughly the 100-day mark. And, we not only can we provide feedback, but you can maybe tell us some uncomfortable truths as you're starting to get engaged with the community, with staff, that maybe that we need to hear, even if we don't want to hear. So I guess that's kind of my view of the next 100 days.
Great.
Okay. It really has all been said. I don't share the doom and gloom that I hear sometimes about trust and, the citizens that I talk to and the staff that I talk to, don't share that doom and gloom. And I think, you come from a parallel city that I would expect you to be able to come in quickly and adjust. So I don't look that to be an issue, but you certainly need to get to know the staff. And you'll quickly learn, as Councilman Baker said, that you have a top-notch group of employees here. And they could run without us, and they could run without you, quite honestly. But, they need stability right now. And more than the doom and gloom and all that, they just need some stability right now, and they need to know that they're supported. And the community needs the same thing. I don't hear that doom and gloom out there either. But, having said that, there are certain parts of the community that talk and give us their input, as you know. But I would just look for you to come in and kind of stable the ship if you came in. Because it's already well built. It's a well-built ship. So I'll give you an opportunity to give a closing statement if you
Sure. One question, if I may, I just want to make sure that there's anything that I said today that gave you pause that I can address here while I'm in person, because it's a lot easier to do it now, later on down the road, so.
I'm good, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
I really appreciate this opportunity. I am, like I said, I'm on the board of trustees at Grand Valley State University. We're going through a presidential search right now. It's a very similar search, so I'm going to take all your questions and use that for my interview. But I understand how much of a long process this is, so I appreciate the time. Like I said, I can't reemphasize how excited I am about this opportunity. Troy is one of the crown jewels of Oakland County. And I wish you luck on your search. And like I said, it's not an easy process, a long process for you guys. So I thank you for your service and look forward to hearing from you in the future.
Very well, very good.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Victor. Good to see you again.
Likewise.
Once again, we'll take a short
All right.
break for lunch.
Get there with Chris Burge at some point today.